Hey everybody, it's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine here, not with Jeff Hawkins this week. Jeff is away. He's fine, don't worry, not a health thing or anything. He just had a prior commitment that he absolutely could not get out of. So you got me here talking solo. So it may be a shorter show than usual, but we'll see what kind of comments we get in the chat. Maybe it won't be. I think the last time I did one of these, it ended up being about the same length. But I want to also thank everyone that's going to be joining us live. I see there's a few people in there already, and also everyone on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. Fernando, pretty hot show tonight, which we'll get into. But first of all, before we talk about the show, I wanted to bring up the big news from today, which I'm sure most of you listening and or watching already know. And they talked about it on the show tonight. AEW pay-per-views will be starting on HBO Max, starting with All Out on September 20th. In conjunction with that, they also announced that the show is moving to a 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central start time, which is interesting. I think originally it had been scheduled for the regular time, 7 Central. And so, the people that have tickets, hopefully that doesn't cause an inconvenience for them. I saw some people that were worried, people that were flying in for the show that were worried they might not be able to make it. You got a couple weeks, so hopefully they can figure out ways to change their flight plans and everything. The pay-per-views will be available with a Max subscription for $10 less than you get them on other pay-per-view outlets. So $39.99. So it's not free like it is with WWE on ESPN, but it is $10 cheaper. And again, there's a benefit to ordering through HBO Max, obviously. And when they were plugging the pay-per-view tonight, they really only mentioned HBO Max. And nothing about this deal says it's exclusive. So I do believe that you'll still be able to order via other methods if you are not an HBO Max subscriber. But I'd imagine most AEW fans already have HBO Max. So it'd kind of be silly to order it any other way, unless you're doing what some people do and having a VPN and ordering it internationally, because you can still get a little bit cheaper that way. But even that is, it's not that much cheaper to use the VPN and order it through like Triller than it would be if you already have an HBO Max subscription. They've also announced a tailgate kickoff party. I think that's the terminology they're using. Our tailgate brawl, I think is what it is. Yeah, tailgate All Out Brawl is what they've called it, I believe. And that's going to be airing on TNT an hour earlier. So 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central. And, basically like a pregame show. I assume it's basically like the countdown show that normally airs on YouTube. So, that's interesting because that'll be on TNT. And as Garrett and I talked about on Monday on the Takedown, if you heard that, this is, as much as this is an AEW versus WWE war, it's also a TNT versus ESPN war, because ESPN also just recently launched an app and they're debuting WWE PLEs on the same day. So there's going to be a lot of hype from both companies. And these are the two biggest cable channels in the cable universe. So, it's going to be a big, big day for pro wrestling. I mean, in some ways, it might be bigger than WrestleMania Sunday or All Out Sunday, because you basically got two companies both putting on a really, really important show. And WWE is stacking the card. AEW, I assume, will stack the card. I mean, they've already announced like 3 or 4 matches, I think, which is, we're still 2.5 weeks out, so that's more ahead than they usually are. I'm going to put Greg's coming up here in a second. Maria says AEW pay-per-views are better in the daytime. It depends on the day, and everyone's different. But for me, I like a Saturday afternoon show. Sunday afternoons is tougher because family goes to church. We usually plan things with the family on Sunday, so Sunday's kind of a family day. And if I'm going to see a pay-per-view or a PLE on a Sunday, I'd rather see it in the evening. But on a Saturday, just for my personal preference, I definitely prefer the afternoon. And in this case specifically, I like that they're moving it to the afternoon, because now I could watch both of them in pretty close to real time if I choose to do so. And I wouldn't obviously be able to do that if they were airing head to head. Greg brings up a good point. They should have stood pat time-wise bad publicity of inconveniencing some fans and looking like you got bullied into moving, I don't think they get that much more buys. Well, okay, here's the thing. I agree with the first part for sure. Um, not only I talked about the people with the flights earlier. There's also people that may have bought tickets expecting to go to an evening show, and now they're expected to go to a daytime show. And depending on your home situation, for me, for instance, if I had planned to go to this show and I wasn't bringing my daughter, I have to arrange childcare. And so I'm going to get my childcare to come for like 6 o'clock if I'm going to a show that starts at 7, which is a time zone where I live. If all of a sudden that gets changed to 1 o'clock, my caregiver may not be able to come at 1 o'clock, and then I'm out. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. So, and I imagine there may be some other people like that. People may work, and maybe they don't work evenings, so they thought, oh, I'm okay to go on the evening, but I can't go during the day. And maybe if you had 3 months to book the day off, you could, but when they're telling you 2 weeks out, maybe you can't. Now, saying that they look like they got bullied into moving, I mean, you can certainly say that, and I'm sure some people are saying that. You could also say that, look, all in did a good number in the afternoon. Forbidden Door did a good number in the afternoon. Their numbers in the UK are way up. So maybe what they're looking at is, okay, we're going to take a hit in North America because we're going up against WWE and ESPN is promoting the hell out of it. And, so our numbers are going to be down. But if we move the show to the afternoon, we're going to get a lot more UK and Europe buys. So maybe that's a strategy. And if that's the case, might be smart. And there's a decent argument to be made that the WWE card is irrelevant. The number of people that buy AEW pay-per-views is pretty consistent. And are they going to be swayed by Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, which technically hasn't even been announced yet? We haven't even seen Brock Lesnar since he interfered at SummerSlam. And the other big match is expected to be Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins against AJ Lee and CM Punk. That hasn't been announced either. In fact, we haven't even seen AJ Lee yet, although Friday is when we expect to see her based on TV on Monday. So, those will be big matches and they'll be hyped. And we also got a women's title match, Stephanie and Io. I expect Rhea to be added to that. So that, that'll be a big match as well. So yeah, and then with AEW, I mean, they added Mercedes versus Riho today, which I actually predicted, which I don't know how. I guess I kind of figured, well, Riho must be okay by now. We don't have a match for Tony, although based on Collision, I expect it's going to be Tekla. We don't have any idea what's going on with Hangman, and we'll talk about that later, but I have no idea. I thought it was going to be Kenny Omega. I don't think so now. The angle at the end would lead me to believe it's Kyle Fletcher, but he's got a match with Mark Briscoe coming up, so I don't know what's going on. But they've got John Moxley and Darby Allin. Hasn't been announced, but they pretty much said it's happening. And FTR against Cope and Christian. I mean, so that's pretty big card right there. I'd imagine we'll probably get Bucks against Brodito, which would be a big match. And depending on what's going on with Kenny, I mean, maybe he's going to come back for a match with somebody in the Callis family. I don't know. That seems really, really close after the angle they did at the end, but we'll see. But it's it's a big show, even with the people that they have missing. So I think they're doing a really good job building it up. And then with all this extra stuff they're doing, they're making it feel like a special show. So yeah, big news. People have been waiting for this, ever since they moved to Max in January. And I saw people were predicting this might never happen. I actually, I listened to on the F4W network, Josh Nason does a quarterly podcast with Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, and they talk about AEW finances. And one of them, I don't want to put the finger on which one it was, but one of them predicted that it'll never happen. Like, we're never going to see pay-per-views on HBO Max. And that show just dropped like a couple weeks ago. So Transferring Heat brings up they had a month to change the time. Did AJ Lee returning change that much? No, I think it was a combination of the buy rate coming in for Forbidden Door and seeing that they did a good number, and as well just the idea that we're going to be able to get pay-per-views on Max. Like that they may have just found that out recently. We heard the rumor of it, I think on the weekend, or it might have been Friday, because Garrett and I did talk about it on Monday. So I know it was before that. So, but this is fairly new news. So did AEW get any compensation for the pay-per-view on Max? So what was announced at the time that the deal was announced was that part of this deal was that the pay-per-views would air on Max. I believe that they would still get a pay-per-view split, but I don't know that for sure. But my assumption is that they'll still split the revenue. You know, who knows what the revenue is currently? I think it's 60-40 in AEW's favor on the shows that are airing on other platforms. Obviously, depending on the provider, the split may be slightly different. Used to always be 50-50, but I know WWE negotiated to get a better split at one point. And in fact, part of the reason why they pulled their pay-per-views and started the WWE Network was because they didn't like the split they were getting. So this maybe Max negotiated a better split in exchange for giving them so much money for their TV deal. Like we don't know the details of all that, but obviously it's not an exclusive deal. So I don't imagine there's much of a premium for Max to get on there, but they obviously, I would assume they're getting a split, because otherwise why would they do it? Like there's no incentive unless they part of the agreement with the getting the pay-per-views. I mean, the amount of money we're talking about is really like maybe about $30 million a year. And the total value of the TV contract averages $185 million. So in the big scheme of things, it's not really that much money. But you know, it's yeah. If you don't have Max, it's not a great deal for fans. No, absolutely. Like you're not going to order HBO Max just so you can buy AEW pay-per-view. That would be stupid, because you could get, you know, you could just get it through Prime, or you can get it through regular pay-per-view, or, you know, whatever. There's other ways to get it. Triller. Well, maybe I'm not sure if Triller still goes, payperview.com. There's other ways to get it. So yeah, this is mainly for people that have Max already. This is great. For people that don't have Max, just keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter. But I believe it's like 70 million subscribers in the US have Max. So most of the people that watch AEW, I would think, have it. So let's get to this show. And so I thought it was a good show. It was their second week in Philly in the 2300 Arena. The fourth show that they've done there, because they did the ROH pay-per-view on Friday, which was a good show. I wouldn't say it was a great show. If you don't have a lot of time, and it was a long show as well, especially with the pre-show. But if you don't have a ton of time, I would recommend watching the first two matches on the pay-per-view and the last two matches. Some people might also add the Paul Walter Hauser match. I didn't particularly enjoy that match, but it got a really good rating on Cage Match, and a lot of people really liked it. So if you like hardcore brawls and you don't really care too much about good wrestling, I would, you could watch that match. And Paul Hauser worked really hard, and QT Marshall did his best to make a match out of it. And it was fun, but again, it wasn't great in my opinion. But the first two matches on the show were really good. And the last two, like the two world title matches, the women's and the men's world title match, were both really, really good. So I would highly recommend those matches. And then Collision on Saturday was another good show. And again, Collision's got its audience. It did its record low this week. So I guess a lot of people didn't watch it with college football and everything, but I enjoyed it. I always enjoy Collision. And they did a really good angle at the end of the show with Tekla and her group, Triangle of Madness, laid out Tony Storm. And you got the sense that Tekla was going to be challenging for the women's world title at All Out when that was over. So we'll see what they do. They booked another 8-woman all-star match for Collision this week. So I would imagine we'll get some more on that. But they opened the show with no credits. And Excalibur's like talking about what's coming up on the show, and you can hear someone, and I wasn't sure who it was at first. And then eventually they cut to Gabe Kidd in the aisle, and he's cutting a promo, and he calls out Darby Allin. He says, "The stump ain't big enough for you to be hiding in the rafters." So Darby attacked him, and they brawled in the ring, and they keep brawling. And the announcers told us it's not an official match. Darby somehow trapped Gabe's arm in a ring post, which is new. And the announcers kept telling us it's not a match, not a match. And at this point, I'm wondering, like, why didn't they just make a match? But I guess we figured out why, because Wheeler showed up. Darby took him out pretty easily, hit Gabe with a coffin drop. Then he grabbed a skateboard with thumbtacks glued to it, and he hit Wheeler with it a few times. Then he did a jump from the top rope, basically like a skateboard dive, and landed on on Wheeler's back, and Wheeler got tacks stuck in his back that had to suck. And they told us here that Wheeler had to compete for the AEW tag team title tonight. And I'm like, what? I did a preview of the show like an hour before it started, and this match wasn't on it. But I guess they announced this during like some sort of pre-show they do on YouTube or something. So then Mox and Marina showed up. And at that point, the lights went out. And I figured, okay, it's probably Hook again. And sure enough, his weird music started playing, and we got the Hook bat signal. And he wanders out. And I literally, like, he did not do a run-in. He basically just walked as slow as he could, stopped halfway up the aisle, and just kind of looked at it. And then the Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs just ran in from the back, just brushed right past him, almost knocked him over. And they basically made the save. Somewhere Willow showed up. I didn't even see her make an entrance, but she's brawling with Marina. And then, like, Hook and Wheeler disappeared off the face of the planet. The announcers told us they're brawling somewhere in the building. And they said that Gabe and Darby are also brawling somewhere. And then they go to the back, and we see Gabe, and he's choking out Darby on a forklift. And then he grabbed a hammer, and he swung it at Darby really loud or really hard, and he missed. But, I mean, the way he hit, like, he swung that thing full force. And then Darby grabbed some powder out of the back of a truck that just happened to be sitting there, and he blinded Gabe Kidd. And then he grabbed a rag and choked him out. And then he pulled out a body bag that was attached to the back of the truck with a chain. And he wrapped Gabe Kidd in the body bag, and he drove away at a pretty good speed, hauling Darby behind him. This was nuts. And no security, by the way, I should point out, even attempted to break this up. So I don't know where they were. They weren't in the ring because they weren't trying to break up that brawl either. And they did hire security for the night because we saw them later, but whatever. I mean, this happens all the time. Just some comments here. Fernando says he enjoyed the segment. Yeah, I mean, it was good. It just, I did have that question about why nobody tried to stop them. And someone in our Discord brought up, like, the ops, or I mean, not the ops, the Death Riders didn't seem too concerned about Gabe Kidd later on either. Like, they never even mentioned him. And Fernando thinks Hook is turning heel. Yeah, there was a segment after that where, Hook was acting kind of weird. So we'll see. Somebody's turning heel. It's probably Hook, but I don't know who. We cut to the announcers, and they're kind of laughing about this last angle, which kind of took away from it a little bit. Excalibur talked about All Out. This is where he announced that it's starting on HBO Max. He ran down the card, which is good. And he mentioned Claudio and Wheeler getting a title shot, and we will hear from Copeland and Christian later tonight. We got a video package that showed highlights from last week's Dynamite and from Collision leading into the next match. So that was really good. And that was Mercedes Moné against Alex Windsor. And this was for Moné's TBS title. And they had a really good match, like almost like a pay-per-view quality match, I thought. Crowd was off and on into it, but they got louder and louder as the match went on. So that's good. And, I mean, they worked this match really well. The whole thing, like, Mercedes kept trying to get her statement maker. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say she kept trying to get it. She actually put on her statement maker like 3 different times. And Windsor got out of it different ways every time. So that was kind of cool. Like, the first time she powered out of it and had her up on her shoulders. And then Moné took her down with a crucifix and then hit a backstabber. And then Windsor hit a power bomb. Both of them were down. Crowd cheered. Then Justin Roberts did a 10 minutes down, 10 minutes remaining count. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they're going to go to a draw and they'll do a rematch on the pay-per-view, which actually I had predicted that might happen because I was wondering, like, what Mercedes can be doing for the pay-per-view. The other thing I predicted was the Riho thing. And then they go back to the action. They get up. Windsor's got an ankle lock. They rolled out of the ring. She puts on a sharpshooter. Mercedes tapped like crazy, but because they were on the floor, obviously it wasn't a submission. She rolled in to break up the count. Moné followed. This is where she put on another statement maker. Then Windsor tried to get out of it. Mercedes hit her with a backstabber. Then Windsor took her down with a lariat, and they were both down again. And this time the cheers were even louder. Windsor hit a Death Valley driver, got a near fall. Later on, Mercedes hit another statement maker, and Windsor was trying to make the ropes, and Mercedes kicked off the ropes, and then they went almost back to the ropes again, and then Mercedes did the same thing again, but this time Windsor countered it into a roll up for 2, and then Mercedes rolled her up for 2, and it was super tight, and it got the pin. And I thought this was like the exchanges and everything. It was really, really good match. I give it 3.75 stars. I if you wanted to give it even more, I wouldn't complain too much. The thing with the 3 statement makers was funny because I was like, that was part of the reason I didn't like it at first. But then when I really thought about it, and the fact that Windsor used different moves to counter out of the statement maker every time, I actually think that added to the match. So if you didn't watch it for some reason, I would strongly recommend going back and watching that. And then after the match, Windsor attacked her. And the thing is, there's bad blood here because Mercedes did that promo last week where she made fun of Will and said he was in the hospital and I'm going to put you there to join her. But then Mercedes made her own comeback and put her in the statement maker again. And then some music played. And at first I thought it was Mina Shirakawa. And I'm like, wait a minute, they already did Mina and Mercedes. And then you see Riho show up and the crowd went nuts because we haven't seen her in like over a year, I think. And what I really liked about this is even though there's music playing and obviously there's someone coming, Mercedes never let go of this hold. So too many times, like people will let go of the hold and sit there and wait for the babyface to show up. And this, she didn't actually do that. So Riho ends up breaking it up. She dives on her from the top rope, and then she did a sliding drop kick and kicked her out of the ring. And I wrote down here Mercedes versus Riho at All Out ? And then later on, Tony Khan booked the match. So yay, we're going to get that match. And I think this is a match that both of these women have probably really wanted for a long time, and I'm sure it's going to be great. So it's awesome. Then we let's see if there's any comments here. Transferring Heat doesn't like this. Okay. She hasn't done anything to be a challenger. Well, she is a former world champion, so there is that. And I have no problem with this one. And the TBS Championship, to be fair, always is not always, but is often a challenge title. So you don't necessarily have to earn a title shot. But a lot of people seem to not like this match. Fernando agrees she doesn't deserve a title shot. Maria is not excited about Riho for Mercedes. That's too bad. I'm wondering, like, I assume everyone here has been watching since the beginning, but if you haven't, you may be surprised at how good Riho is, because like some of those early matches, like she was the only thing in the women's division that was really very good at first, and then everyone kind of caught up to her, and then she kind of disappeared, and then in some ways people surpassed her. In some ways it's kind of like AJ Lee in WWE, honestly, like where when she first started she was like the best, and then everyone surpassed her, and now she's coming back, and maybe she's probably not going to be the best, so we'll see. But next we got a segment with Renee, and she was with Powerhouse and Samoa Joe, and she asked, where does Hook stand with the Ops? And Joe says, that's a great question, ask him yourself. And then he shows up and he says, what's up? Or Joe says, what's up? And he says, first of all, I don't need either of you. I'll fight my own battles. Second off, man, you replaced me before my body even got cold. And gosh, and okay, yeah. So you know what, my notes got mixed up here, but he said, Joe says, you're right. We didn't wait for the body to get cold because opportunity came calling. You weren't ready. He stepped up, points at Hobbs, and he was ready. And we didn't come out to save you tonight. We have our own business with the Death Riders, but you have every right to be upset. I'm the one who did it. I made the call to get rid of you, and you need to know that. You also need to know that at some point you're going to need our help, and whether you want it or not, we'll have your back. And they have a bit of a stare down. Hook looked all mean, and then he walked away. And then we go to break. We come back, and Ricochet was there with the Gates of Agony and no interviewer. And he says, for those of you paying attention, my problems with the Hurt Syndicate predate AEW. They go way back. They started several years ago. And I couldn't figure out why we couldn't be on the same page. It's all about laying fists and collecting accolades. But the issue here is, for you, it's business. But for us, it's become personal. Yeah, you've earned everything you've accomplished, but the last couple of weeks, you're relying on your past legacies. And then Bishop Khan just takes over the interview and he says, we ended your reign and your legacy is next. And then total, or that was Leon, and Khan actually said Ricochet by himself is better than each and every one of you. And then Ricochet says, unlike the three of you, we aren't washed up. We're the future of AEW. MVP, how about we settle this like men? Settle this in Toronto. Once the three of us outwork once the three of us outwork and outperform you, the whole world will know where we stand, and that's above you. And this isn't a challenge, it's a demand. So that was that. Check for comments here. Okay, so we'll move on. Then they showed a banner for Taz that was raised up earlier today. He's been inducted into the 23 Arena Hall of Fame. Taz said he was humbled, which doesn't often happen. So then we get Mark Briscoe out, and I love this promo. He says, someone handed him a mic, and the fans are chanting, "Dem boys." He says, "We're in Philly tonight. ECW Arena here. This is hollow ground, sacred place. This is actually the very building my brother and myself fell in love with professional wrestling." And the fans chanted for Jay. He says, "Damn it, it's been guns blazing ever since. Right here, right now, 2025, my focus is on a young man named Kyle Fletcher and the TNT title he wears around his waist. So unfortunately, that involved having a conversation with a man named Don Callis." And the fans chant, "Fuck Don Callis." Tony Schiavone says his favorite chant. Taz says, yeah, people say it a lot backstage too. And he says, "I'm speaking to the same Don Callis that looks like Elton John dressed up like a prosthetic penis." Fans start chanting prosthetic penis. I think they tried to chant prosthetic, but they just gave up. He said, "I had to beat another one of his henchmen to get my shot. I'm tired of waiting, Don. Come on, choose your man, whoever it may be. I'm ready." And Callis comes out with Rocky, he comes out first, does a promo. So this is where my notes got screwed up. So he says, yeah, here we go. He says, "We have something important to say. You know, Mark." I know Mark. He kept emphasizing Mark. Like, I don't know if he's trying to call him like a Mark or why he kept saying it that way, but he did it a lot. He says that you're very impatient to get your answer. But you know what, Mark? I'm a little busy getting Kyle and Josh ready for the big main event tag tonight. So, Mark, if you want your answer, Mark, it's not going to be one you like. It won't be one you like because your opponent this Saturday on Collision will be none other than the Alpha Konosuke Takeshita. And then he comes out and he looked fine. He's all dressed in black, gets in the ring. They have a stare off. And he says, "All right, Mark, you better save it for Saturday." And he walks away smiling. Then Mark says, "Don Callis, I think you just like messing with my head, trying to get me all out of sorts. Saturday, I'll be whipping your ass, Mr. Takeshita. Find another one of your, what did I write here? Find another one of your," I wrote down feuds, but I don't think that's what he said. "And let's go right here, right now." And then Rocky took off his jacket and he says, "I got this." And Callis sends Archer in instead. And I don't know why they didn't just announce this match, because actually after Collision, I figured this is the match they were going to do, but we did get that awesome promo segment, so I guess I shouldn't question it. And ref comes out, and the match is on. And so they had a match. Just check here. Yeah, MVP is back in the ring. Yeah, good thing Fernando pointed that out. It'll be a 6-man with him and Lashley and Benjamin against Ricochet and his crew. And he doesn't like the idea of the G1 winner being a stepping stone. Well, that's true, unless he doesn't lose. Because I have a hard time believing Mark Briscoe is going to beat Takeshita unless Okada gets involved. And I could see that based on the promo we got later. So if that's the case, then that could set up Okada and Takeshita. I think it's way too soon for that match, but I wouldn't put it past them to do it, because I mean, Okada did call him a bitch tonight. We'll get to that segment later. So they this Briscoe Archer match, it was fine. I mean, it was probably the worst match on the show, but it's not that it was bad or anything. It was just, it wasn't very long and pretty predictable. I mean, Archer got a lot of offense early, then Briscoe took over, and it was basically what you would expect. I mean, and you could probably see better matches between these two, but they didn't have a ton of time. And Archer is getting up there in age. So, but they mentioned here at one point that Briscoe was going for his 50th win. So he got his 50th win, spoiler alert. So he turned it around with karate thrust. Archer went for a top rope choke slam. Briscoe bit his way out of it, Then he hit a sunset powerbomb for 2, went up top, hit the froggy bow. And this is like, normally when he hits that froggy bow, like the guy kicks out, and then Archer, he just laid down. So he got pinned. And that was fine. No complaints about the match at all. And I mean, it's a good match. Got Briscoe over, sets him up for the match on Saturday with Takeshita. And I'm interested because I don't know who's going to win that match. Like, I could see either one of them winning. I mean, I don't want Briscoe to lose. But then again, like maybe the whole thing is like Briscoe wants a match with Kyle Fletcher. He has to beat Takeshita to get it, and he doesn't get it. And then Kyle Fletcher goes for the world title, and then that answers a whole bunch of questions. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Then we got a promo with Toni Storm. And so I watch these shows and I'm taking notes as I'm writing, and I don't get everything. And especially with Toni, like, she talks a little faster than everyone, and the stuff she says is so outlandish. Like, I can't predict it. Sometimes with promos, I can predict what they're going to say. So I'm kind of cheating and writing down what they're going to say before they actually say it. So if I missed anything, I apologize. But here's what I got. They told us that Toni Storm took over a camera crew earlier today. So she says, Philadelphia freaks, lend me your ears. I'm going to tell you tales of blood, sweat, and debauchery. Every illegal activity in here, and y'all cheered for it. So I promise to be the most batshit bitch to ever piss in this sink. No forever champion or belt collector could take this from my hand. I'm begging every woman with a pulse to step up. Play the role in the greatest show on earth. Give me your best, worst, and everything in between. God doesn't judge you. That's my job. And if you missed that quote, you would see it later when someone put it up on Twitter, and the AEW social media machine decided to do that. Yes, they're now putting tweets up on the screen during matches, which is weird. But I see it in the UFC, so I'm not necessarily complaining about it. It was just weird. I wasn't expecting it. And I wasn't a huge fan of most of the tweets. I'll just say that. Any thoughts on this? Tony. Fernando loved the promo. He always likes her promos. And I'll be honest, like this one, like I'm not the biggest fan in the world of a lot of Tony's promos, but this was one of her better ones. So I did like this one. Then we get Renee with Harley and Statlander, and Harley's got her mask on, and she asks him what's going on. And she mentioned that they won their match on Collision. She says, "Yes, Renee, we were victorious, but this mask did nothing. This mask doesn't protect, it only destroys." And or I guess no, Statlander said that to her. This mask doesn't protect, it only destroys. I think one of them said that. Then Statlander pulled the mask off her, and she said, "It's not within the mask, it's within you." And then she's got makeup on now, and she looks kind of cool. And she says, "This tag team is undefeated, and we're headed straight to the top. Give us Brodito." And Statlander's like, no. And says, "How about we stick with the Triangle of Madness?" And then Wheeler showed up, and he gets in Statlander's face. She says, "Kristen," and she says, "Wheeler," and he says, "I just wanted to let you know the Death Riders have your back." And then she says, "You can tell." She says, "You can tell you know who that if anyone is looking for us, it's up." And she says, "Tell our friend I got his message all right." And then Wheeler says, "I got to go wrestle." He leaves, and Harley says, "They seem fun." Now, I did see people opining that when he said "our friend," and everyone assumed he was talking about Moxley, but he may have been talking about Orange Cassidy, because you'll recall that they were all part of Best Friends, and Orange Cassidy's been out with an injury for a long time, and I think it was Fightful recently reported that Orange Cassidy is cleared to return. So it could be that Orange Cassidy is somehow going to be involved in this. Fernando asks, "Is Stat joining the Death Riders?" I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if she did. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't. I have no idea what's going on here. The only thing I'll say is Moxley has been involved in this, and when Moxley's involved, he takes things seriously. So I don't think it's going to be something that just gets dropped. This is going somewhere. I just have no idea where. So we'll see. More to come. But I like the theory that it is Orange Cassidy that Wheeler was talking about here, and not John Moxley. So Next, we got the match: Wheeler and Claudio versus Brodito for the AEW tag team titles. This match was awesome. Yuta was getting "fuck you, Yuta" chants. They were plugging the pay-per-view again, and they noted that you can pre-order the pay-per-view starting this Friday. So I guess they have that section up on HBO Max. And crowd was like super into this right from the start. They went through a break, come back from the break. Bandito is taking a lot of punishment. They're doing the the old Cody Rhodes. They're going fuck you, Yuta. And then here's where they started showing tweets on the screen. And the tweets had nothing to do with what we were watching, which was part of the issue. The other thing is, like, I'll just say, like, there might have been people that really like these. What it is, I saw these tweets that, like, just when I see them on Twitter, I just kind of roll my eyes because they're just like so pandering, and it's like they're just, I don't know. It's hard to describe, and I don't want to insult people because they really like what they're watching, and there's nothing wrong with that. You like fans that are like what they're watching, and the thing is, like, these are real tweets because Lady B, who is in our Discord, and she listens to the show and watches it occasionally, and comments in the YouTube chat. She got one of her tweets up there on these. So this would be later on during a later match, but yeah. So they started doing that. That's fun. That's cool. It'll probably encourage people to tweet because they're going to want to see their tweets on the screen. And it's not like it's not like Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, and like these are just like regular people that they're putting up tweets for. So they're kind of cool in a way, but I don't need to see it. But if you like it, that's cool. I'm not going to criticize you for liking it. Anyways, Brody makes a hot tag. He ran wild, tagged in Bandito. They did a springboard into a Rana, which is really cool. Bandito got 2. Then Bandito went for the Eddie Frog splash, but he missed it. Wheeler tagged in, got massive boos. Brody tagged in. Him and Bandito chopped Wheeler's back, and they pointed out it was still hurting from the tacks. Then they got another tag. Brody hit a superplex. They went for their catapult finisher, but Marino grabbed Bandito's boot. And then Claudio attacked him. Missile dropkick on Brody from Yuta. Then Shafir distracted the ref. Out comes Moxley, and he threw Brody into a turnbuckle. Claudio hits a superplex, and then overhead pressed Wheeler onto Bandito. Got 2. Crowd's chanting for Bandito here. Claudio did a giant swing into the dropkick from Wheeler. That got a 2 count. Brody tried to make the save, didn't make it, but they broke up the pin anyways. So that was kind of a little the thing is, whoever was on the ground, I guess it was Wheeler, or no, it was Bandito. He kicked out because he knew Brody wasn't going to make it. So it wasn't like a botch, but I think Brody was supposed to make the save, but he didn't actually get there in time. Anyways, Claudio tossed him out of the ring, distracted the ref again. Mox started stalking Brody, and then Darby Allin appears out of nowhere, jumps on Mox's back, choked him out. Then Brody took out Claudio on the floor, decked Wheeler in the ring, and Bandito hit their 21 plex and got the win. Awesome match. I gave it 4.25 stars. Really, really good. I mean, again, it's almost like a pay-per-view match. Maria says nothing against people tweeting, but she doesn't want it on her TV screen. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, because I just stay off of Twitter. Like, I don't need to see it. And Fernando agreed with me. That was a really good tag team championship match. So yeah, glad we're in agreement on that one. Then we went backstage, and this is where we got a quick little promo with Renee and Okada. She congratulated him on his big win last week in the, I think it was another 8-man match they had last week. And someone was wandering around in the background here. And I'm not sure if this was like an angle, like an Easter egg, like they do in WWE sometimes, or if this was just somebody that got in the shot. But then they cut away, and then they went back, and the guy wasn't there anymore. So I think it might have just been somebody wandering around in the background. But she asked him about tension with Takeshita, and he says he calls himself the Alpha. Well, I'm the Rainmaker, and everyone knows the Rainmaker is the top dog in the Callis family, bitch. So, yeah, problems here. Then we go to break. We come back, and Renee's in the parking lot with the Hurt Syndicate, and she asked if they accept the challenge. And MVP says, Ricochet, what happened to you? You used to be a dynamic, exciting pro wrestler, but you turned into a pathetic kiss ass, a whining hater. You're setting a terrible example for those 2 young lions in the Gates of Agony. Gates of Agony, don't let him turn your careers into a punchline. I saw you on Collision saying you'll learn to respect us. Well, when the Hurt Syndicate walk into a room, people give us a wide berth. We don't ask for respect, we command it. because people know what we're capable of. And so, yes, Renee, I accept the challenge. I look forward to lacing up my boots again and punching you right in your bitch face mouth. Ricochet in Toronto, we are going to hurt you. And then they walk away. Shelton stays behind and he looks at Renee and he says, Renee, it's always a pleasure. And smiles at her, and Renee's happy about that. So nice little promo. Then we got Copeland comes out for a promo. And before he can say anything, and keep in mind, we will hear from Christian and Copeland. So they lied to us. But that's fine, because instead we got a pretty cool brawl. He gets attacked by FTR. Christian quickly made the save, and then security was out very quickly and led me to wonder, like, why did they save these guys, but they didn't save Gabe Kidd earlier? Christian actually beat up some of them, so maybe they're worried about getting beat up. Anyways, somewhere in here, Dax got busted open, not sure how. And finally, at one point, FTR was back in the ring 2-on-1 with Copeland again, but Christian pulled Wheeler out of the ring, and more security came out. Then a bunch of wrestlers came out, and I didn't know who any of these people are. And Excalibur points out that it's the Ring of Honor locker room. And I got to tell you, I watch Ring of Honor every week, and I didn't recognize any of these people. Well, I should say most of these people. I did see Adam Priest, and the crowd recognized him as well, because he wrestled a couple times already, since they've been there. And so they're chanting Priest, 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 Priest. And then I wrote down, oh, maybe this is going to set up a match. And because he ended up basically breaking it up and getting in the face of Dax and Wheeler. And he's been teaming with the Workhorsemen, which Excalibur pointed out, but they weren't out there with him. And later on, they did a challenge. Actually, it's like right away. We got a video package from Mox and Garcia for the match that they're having on Saturday. So Collision is actually a big show. John Moxley, Daniel Garcia, you got Kenoshi Keshna, Mark Briscoe, and they announced an an all-star 8-woman tag, which with I'll write it down later. But then we got a promo. It was FTR and Stokely, and he says, "Guess who's back? Adam Copeland, Christian Cage. Next time you put your hands on me, there will be a day of reckoning, and I can't wait for STR to put you 6 feet." And before he can say under, Adam Priest showed up, and I think it was Cash Wheeler got in his face. And he says, "Who do you think you are? You get TV for 1 week, and you think you're somebody? Well, Saturday, find a tag team partner, and we'll make you somebody." So I assume it's not going to be JD Drake or Anthony Henry. Maybe it'll be JD Drake, because actually the last time I saw them, it was those two teaming, and Anthony Henry wasn't even at ringside, so it's possible he's injured. But we'll see on Saturday. So yeah, there's another match I guess we're going to have on Saturday. And then Stokely says, "Get your bitch ass out of here. I got something to say." And then all he had to say was "Top guy's out." So it's fine. So the 8-woman tag team match that they announced was Tony, Mina Shirakawa, Chris Statlander, and I wrote down Harley Cameron. I wrote down Harby, but it would be Harley Cameron, and they're going to be facing the Triangle of Madness, which is Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart, as well as Megan Bayne, and also Briscoe and Takeshita, Moxley versus Garcia, which I already mentioned. And then that match, I assume FTR against Adam Priest and someone else. They showed highlights of a meet and greet from earlier, and the Bucks are complaining that they had to do it. They said we haven't done these since like 2013, and then they're upset because they only charged $20 and they haven't had time to stretch for their match. And they showed the pictures, and the pictures are like super old. And then they showed their entrance, and the Chiron said "these guys again," and it said 83 days since they've been EVPs, I think was what it said. I may have got that number wrong because I'm doing it from memory, but it did say the number of days since they've been EVPs. So that was kind of cute. Cyclops doesn't believe me that it's a big show. Well, yeah, if you don't think those matches are big, then I guess you don't think it's a big show. Why was Gates of Agony and Ricochet wearing matching vests just like a 90s R&B group? I don't know about Gates of Agony, but Ricochet is supposed to be a geek, so that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But again, he's a geek, and he's an entertaining geek, and he has great matches, and that's part of his character. But he's a geek, and anyone who thinks he's in a better position in AEW than WWE probably wasn't watching WWE. And by the way, I'm not complaining, because he's way more entertaining here than he was in WWE. So, again, I'm not defending WWE or anything. Like I'm saying, AEW is using him better, but he's not higher up the card, but he is having more fun. He's probably making more money, and he made the right move. There's no question about that. Fernando says, why is a jobber fighting Dax? Well, you'll find out on Saturday because the match can be great. Adam Priest is not a jobber. I mean, he is in AEW, but he actually gets wins in Ring of Honor, and he's a talented wrestler, and I think you'll be surprised. And that's FTR loves wrestling guys like that because they think they're making them stars. Now, if history is any indication, well, he'll be Daniel Garcia at best if he's lucky. He's kind of small, which hurts him, but he's a really good wrestler. So then we get the main event, and it was often they use this term all-star tag, and I kind of roll my eyes because it's like there's be somebody like, I don't know, the Outrunners in it or something. But in this case, they're pretty much all all-stars. Young Bucks, Josh Alexander, Kyle Fletcher against Jet Speed, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Page. And okay, I wrote down a lot, and I wasn't even writing down stuff for most of this match because I was just watching it, and I was, dealing with some stuff with my daughter and whatnot because it's a main event. And I'm getting her ready for bed and everything. So if I missed anything, I apologize, but this is what I wrote down. And they had a wild brawl early, and faces did dives onto the heels, and that led us into break. Tony Schiavone told us that we'd stay with us as long as it took. They pushed that Hangman and Kenny were former tag champs, and also that Callis managed Kenny. They come back. I wrote down just a total party match, everyone hitting everything. And eventually we got Bayley and Alexander in an extended run in the ring together. So it's kind of an Impact reunion there. Alexander did a body block to knock Bayley to the outside. Then Kevin Knight hit a flying lariat from the top turnbuckle onto the guardrail to knock out, I think it was Alexander. Then Matt super kicked Bayley on the guardrail. Then he went up to the top rope, hit a Meltzer driver in the ring on Kevin Knight where Kyle Fletcher was holding him. And then you had Nick, I think, and I may have the Bucks mixed up here, but one of them had Bayley on the guardrail, and they hit another Meltzer driver there. So two Meltzer drivers back to back. Then they went through a second break, and they come back, and Bayley's in the ring. Bucks hit a combo move, that one they do on the ropes where one of them's draping and they do like a springboard and land on the back. They showed more tweets here, and this is where our friend Lady B got her tweet up on the screen where she just said, Hangman Page, still my beating heart or something like that, I think is what she said. But anyways, the Elite squared off for a huge pop. So it was like the Bucks and Kenny and Hangman, they were all in the ring just kind of staring across from each other. And the fans chanted, holy shit. They started brawling. The fans were chanting, be Elite, be the Elite, which, of course, is the old BTE theme song. And Bucks had a miscommunication spot. Kenny hit a V-trigger on Matt. They went for a buckshot, but the Bucks recovered and blocked it. They did a double clothesline. All four guys were down again. Fans were chanting, this is awesome. Here's where they announced Mercedes versus Riho for the pay-per-view. Kyle Fletcher tagged in. Hangman hit him with a half-and-half suplex, and he went for a moonsault. But Kyle caught him, hit a spinning tombstone for 2. And just here is where I noticed that Callis was on commentary. Like normally I'll notice it right away, but this is how much I was like paying attention to the match. Like I wasn't even listening to the commentary for the most part. Fans were chanting fight forever. They had told us numerous times that, we'll stay with this match as long as it takes. Kevin Knight hit a blank tag. He missed a springboard sunset flip, but Kyle Fletcher sold it anyways. So that was like the only like minor mistake they made in the match. Knight hit a standing drop kick, got a huge pop. Matt grabbed his leg. Bayley hit him with a moonsault outside the ring. They had a super kick party in the ring. Everyone under the sun hitting super kicks. Then Knight hit Fletcher with a DDT. Went for a splash, but Fletcher got his knees up. Goes for a superplex on Kevin Knight. Bayley made the save. Hit a reverse Rana. Bayley hit a reverse Rana on Kyle Fletcher. Bucks came in, hit super kicks on everybody again. Alexander hit a great elbow on Kevin Knight. And then Nick did a dive to the outside, took out, I think it was Jet Speed. Or no, it couldn't have been Jet Speed because it was two of the baby faces anyways. It must have been Hangman and Bayley maybe. And then Alexander hit Knight with a pile driver, and then Fletcher hit him with a sheer drop brainbuster and got the pin. This match was incredible. I'm sure Dave Meltzer's going to give it 5. I gave it 4 3/4, but we're quibbling over quarter stars here. It was a great match. One of the better TV main events you'll ever see. Absolutely loved it. These kind of matches aren't for everybody, but I definitely liked it. So if you didn't like it, sue me. Maria thought a lot of action in this match, pretty fast pace. Fernando's sick and tired of the 8-man tag matches every week. Well, we do have another one coming up on Saturday. So, and anyone in AEW besides Athena is automatically jobber. Well, that's kind of true, actually. Kenny and Hangman versus Fletcher and Alexander at All Out. Well, that would be interesting if the world title wasn't defended on the pay-per-view, but I mean, that's a match that definitely makes sense. I don't know if that's a pay-per-view match, because again, like you would want Hangman defending his world title at All Out, I would think, but I mean, they've done pay-per-views before without a world title match, so who knows? But after the match, the Callis family was beaten on Hangman and Omega, and they focused on Hangman at first, basically took him out. No Okada and no Takeshita, so it was everyone else in the Callis family. And Kyle Fletcher hit DDT into a chair on Hangman, and then Kenny covered his body. And then Rocky and Archer set up a table on the outside. Kenny made a one-man comeback, and but eventually Kyle hit him with a chair to the gut, and that finally stopped him. Then he gave Kenny a suplex from the apron through a table on the outside. Fans are chanting, "You sick fuck." And Kyle was bleeding from the shoulder after this. Doctors came out and checked on Kenny. They put a neck brace on him. So usually a neck brace means you're out for a while. And I don't know if he'd be back in 2 weeks, but it's possible. Kyle was mocking him, and he's screaming in the camera, "Oh, he's dead. He's dead." And they put the credits on the screen. I thought, oh, maybe we're going to get some sort of angle, because sometimes they do that, and the show's not over. But no, it was just over. Kyle walked away smiling. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on with the world title now. And again, maybe we're not getting anything. I don't know. But the match that to me makes the most sense after all this would be Hangman and Kyle Fletcher. And I suppose they could still do it like the way I said. Like maybe Kyle Fletcher beats Mark Briscoe on Sunday, and then Callis says, you beat Mark Briscoe, now you're going for his buddy Hangman. And they book Hangman. Maybe Hangman asks for the match with Kyle Fletcher for revenge on putting out Kenny Omega. I do think we're probably going to get the Bucks and Jet Speed, maybe a 3-way with Brodito for the tag team titles. Because I don't really see any obvious direction for Brodito. We also, I was mentioning matches earlier that for Collision. We also got that 6-man tag with Hurt Syndicate against Ricochet and Gates of Agony. So again, none of those teams are challenging for the tag team titles. So there's a lot for All Out, but again, a lot of the titles are not really. We don't really know what's happening with them. You would be led to believe Okada and Takeshita based on that promo from Okada, but maybe that's a long-term one. I don't know. But I imagine, next week we've only got 2 more Dynamites until the pay-per-view. So today's the 3rd. We got the 10th, the 17th. Yeah. So 2 more Dynamites, 3 more Collisions, or 2 more Collisions, because the other thing they announced, I didn't mention earlier, was on the week of the pay-per-view, the Wednesday Dynamite is going to be called September to Remember. And they're also going to have a 1-hour Collision airing immediately after Dynamite. And so they're only a 1-hour Collision that week, but then you've also got a 1-hour, basically a pre-show. So I think your 2 hours of that would normally be Collision are separated between Wednesday and Saturday that week. And so we'll get 1 hour after Dynamite and 1 hour before All Out on TNT. So that's kind of cool. So that was the show. Like I said, I really liked it. I didn't really have, unless I'm forgetting something I complained about, I think I really liked the show quite a bit. Some good build for the pay-per-view, some awesome wrestling. Again, like AEW, like the wrestling matches on AEW television, I can complain about the booking, and I do. And if you listen to the show, you hear me and Jeff complain about it all the time. But the matches, like nobody does TV wrestling like AEW. Like there's no question about that, in my opinion. A lot of people don't like the party match style, and that's fine. But I do. And the women's matches, they used to not be that good, but usually we get like a Mercedes or a Tony match, or we get some sort of a 6-woman or 8-woman tag, and they're usually okay. occasionally we get a train wreck like that one a few weeks ago with Sky Blue. So, Saturday, fingers crossed, that match will be good, but we still have Mox and Darby. No matches, I don't think, for Dynamite next week. And even this week, they only had the 2 matches that were announced until an hour before the show. So, but I think if you're watching AEW Dynamite, you know you're going to get a good show. So that's what you're watching for. And you don't necessarily really even care what matches are going to be on. You just kind of know they're going to be good. So that's the cachet they built up. And they've already sold all their tickets for these residencies. So it's not as important as it normally would be to announce matches ahead of time. Once they get back into arenas, I think they need to start announcing matches so that people that are buying tickets know what they're getting. But yeah, so that was it. That was the show. So I did go a little bit quicker than usual, but you still got a good hour in, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. I tried to take detailed notes, and it's hard talking for an hour. I didn't even take a sip of my drink. But Jeff will be back next week. Again, it was just like I said, not a work thing, but something kind of like a work thing that he had to do and he couldn't get out of. So he will be back next week. John, if you're listening, I didn't see in the chat, but I apologize. I know you're a big Jeff Hawkins fan, and anyone else that was hoping to hear Jeff and didn't want to hear me for an hour, I apologize, but he'll be back next week. So I want to thank everyone in the chat. You helped out keeping me on track and giving me some information I may have missed. So I appreciate Fernando, Maria, Cyclops, Transferring Heat, anyone else I might have missed, and all you listening on the Fight Game Audio free feed. We appreciate your support as well. So for Jeff Hawkins, who isn't here, I've been Paul Fontaine, and this has been The Dynamite Show.